Hello, welcome and welcome back. Well, you can hear the background. They say that's the man's best friend. Anyway, don't mind him. This is a summer edition. We are still continuing. My name is Kaberere Karaoke for Vitu Vidogo, and I want to thank you so much for your support all through this season. So now, the thing with summer, you know, all nice things, as they say, sadly, they must come to an end. But we do not go dejected because we finish on a high note. Stay tuned and let us find out what that is. Summer is associated with holidaying, vacationing, taking time off, do what we call self-care, you know, go out, venture more, discover more, and of course, soak in the sun. Well, summer sadly must come to an end because that's how it is. The wheel of time. It grinds and grinds slowly. And so when another season beckons, we have nothing else we can do apart from agreeing. So, hey, so here in Toronto, there is an event that usually comes to mark like the end of summer because soon schools will be opening. So in the Torontonian fashion, they have what we call the Canadian National Exhibition, CNE for short. This is usually a fanfare full of pomp, color, and laughter as families head out to downtown Toronto to have fun, and this exhibition, it lasts for 2 weeks. So you can go in anytime and, not only just enjoy the nice rides, but go in there with family, friends, and actually, you know, just have fun and see what the city has to offer. The first order of business is actually transportation. How do you get there? Because I was checking how to get there and I thought maybe I could drive. But then I realized they had closed off some sections. So, well, I looked at the next best alternative and the public transit that was, running very well. So they had taken all the measures to make sure that this event, because you have huge populations, huge crowds of people going down, so they had to make sure like they coordinate. So off I went, I took a bus. From the bus, I hopped onto the subway, and on the subway, all the way down at the main Union Station. So it's there now at the Union Station that there's another train that we could take and drop us off at the lakeshore front. So that at that point, now I realized, oh wow, these people were really organized. So when we got there, of course, we got the tickets, and there's an attendant there who would give you like a small map if you wanted for free, just to see and know your way around. And I think we just looked at the map and we were like, okay, you know what? Let's just go and discover. whatever pulls our eyes, because they have all this fancy lighting and everything else. So we just went, on a discovering spree. So the first stop we got in there was the food section. I think we must have been so hungry because nobody took even a photo. So we went in there and we were looking, okay, what do we want? And we got some fish and chips and, and a pop, or what we call soda. So at that point now, once, because we were famished, so once we had our fill, then it was time to go around. So there are usually so many activities, and so many people that have come up to bring their businesses. For instance, the food courts. There's different types of foods, barbecue. The chickens, uh, whatever floats your boat. Your fries, and there's a lot of like all this sugar food. Like you'd have ice creams, popsicles. Those ice slashes, all those things, like you normally would don't just go in and buy, but it's a fun fair, all those sweet things. So the small business communities usually are encouraged to apply in advance, and they usually clear them, matters licensing and matters health. So they do all those health inspections and support the small businesses to set up their stalls and their shops. So the other one now, the other small players you have are those where you win, you play some small games to win like a prize. So there are those, like you would go there, try to fish something out of the water. The game that I played, that I thought was simple, was trying to pop a balloon. They'll give you this small bean bag, and you need to throw it with a certain amount of force to pop a balloon. And then it depends on how many balloons that you pop. If you pop like maybe 3 balloons, then at least you win a prize. Just the small things to engage you. But these are just ways where now small businesses try to come up with ideas. And if, because I think we to play one game was like $10, but and then we won. And then the guy was like, you can play for more to get a bigger, you know, and we played again. And then after a while, he's like, you want to play more? And I was like, no, these guys, they just want to milk us of our money. No, we had fun. It's, a bird in hand, as they say, is better than two in the bush. So we did not want to risk more and lose. So there was that. The other thing we went for was there was a small concert. Yes, when we had like some loud music, we're like, let's still go around. Then we're gonna come back and see what else we're gonna do. This was because now when we were looking at all these nice rides that were there, there was the Ferris wheel. There are others like small roller coasters. There are others for kids. So there were so many fun activities there. So, but the thing was, because there were huge crowds, every activity or every ride had a very long queue. So, we were like, you know what, let's just go around. Then we'll come back when the lines are shortened. And that is why when now we found ourselves at this event, and it was jam packed. So we were all the way at the back. So we were just looking at these artists from the Caribbean. We can tell the music, soccer music. The speakers were blaring, and people are having a good time. And we were there for a while. We stayed there for like maybe a good half hour. And of which now after that we were like, okay, let's go to another place and see. The other spot we went into was a farm expo. So once we got in, at first we were like, okay, let's just, because it was a bit, it was around 7 in the evening. So we went in there, and wow, they had all these animals they are brought in from the farms. So we started with the goats. Like the goats, they breed goats. Some farms breed goats for milk, and you could see like those goats were really kept very well. Like I was looking at some of them. I'm like, I wish I had like some of this pedigree just to send, to send home. So they had some really very nice goats there. And then we moved on to a beekeeper. So the beekeepers were there. They had their jars of honey, and they were telling us all manner of things, like some how they process their honey, how honey should be eaten raw. You should not put it like cook it or anything. Just have it raw for you to enjoy much of the benefits. And of course, they had other things like the candle, the wax candles that made from the wax of the from the bee combs. And also they had a small display of how a bee colony is like in a hive. So which was very fascinating, because some of these things you can never, until you see it for yourself, then you could see the intricacies, or how even the bees make the combs, and they are so busy moving up and down, up and down. And wow, the bee is such a special is such a special insect. Yeah, so that was also very fascinating. The other animals we went in there, we saw there was a work horse, and I don't know if people can tell the difference. There's a work horse. A work horse is actually really huge, and has is very muscular to pull all those, like those wagons. There was a work. Those are the work horses. And then there's difference from the work horses and the horses that they usually take for racing. You know, so there are like all those manner of horses there, and even as there was a small pony. A pony, it's like a dwarf. It's a dwarf of a horse, and some people, you look at them and you're like, oh wow, okay, because these things are not common, like for from where I'm from, like just, you don't see them on a daily basis. So that's it. And then there were others who had their rabbits. Somebody brought their rabbits there, and people are touching them, they were hugging them, and the people are really mesmerized. And sometimes these are the things we take for granted. When you come, I come from Kenya, and my parents are farmers, and some of these things, like we have cows, we have ducks, we have geese, we have sheep, we have goats, we have a dog, a cat, like all these things, like, and now you have to pay to just come and see them up close. It was really funny. But then again, we were having such a good time. There were cows there, all these, and then they were explaining. They had different charts to explain how every cow was, the kind of milk it produces, how many liters of milk. And they also had like different apparatus, like milking equipment, and they are coolers. All this there now to, just to give like how they do it there in the farms. For me, again, I come from the village. I know how to milk a cow, with hands, because ours is not like those large scale, dairy farms, right? So hey, it was good to see for a change. And of course, they had those massive bulls, you know, kept for meat. So it was also very nice to see how they just put them there around, uh, like in a farm setup. So I think that's much about it, about uh, their farm. Oh, they even had sheep, and they had even the wool product. They had made a couple of blankets and everything. There were so many displays of that. So when we finished that that is when now we went to the fun stuff. Yes, we went to the rides. When it comes to the rides, you know, the Ferris wheel was one on our to-do list because, when you're on the Ferris wheel, you have the advantage of getting to the very top. And at the very top now, you have a vantage view of all the showgrounds. So you can see everything, you could see everything as far as your eyes could see. You can see how the layout of the fanfare, you also could see the highways and the Toronto night sky, how it looks like. So at that point, I couldn't resist, but of course, take a few snaps here and there, so that at least, I can bring it for you and see how well it was. And then there were different rides. There was another one, we were calling it the flying elephants, because now literally they had they shaped the seats, you know, in look alike like an elephant. And it was like watching this animation from a long time ago, was called the Dumbo, the flying elephant. And people are there, children were screaming, in joy, and was just going round and round. And of course, there were others, you know, other games, of course, for children. So they make usually the CNE, they try to make sure they engage the children the most. So you find their parents with their children paying for rides, parents there with their children going on the same rides with them, just to make sure their children are safe. But usually, most of the rides are very safe because they have ensured they cater to safety first. So the parents are there, they're enjoying. Others are even competing with their children and letting them win, like sliding from the top. There was a huge slide, and the parents were wearing socks. You wear the sock so that you don't, and then you just go down and down to the foot of the slide. And children were really having so much fun with that. Oh, there's also another one, right? That was looking like Superman. For those who love, man has always been intrigued by flying. So this one, you had to lie like on your belly, and then when the ride starts to move, it looks like you are lifting off. Like you are lifting off, flying. And the children were so happy, and everyone was so enthusiastic to just go into that one. There was such a huge queue there. I felt like a small boy. I would have gone there, even me, to go there and live my Clark Kent dreams, Superman's, the other name for Superman, government name is Clark Kent. Well, yeah, it would have been so nice. Yes. And then, of course, time was not on our side, and the fanfare was closing at around 11. So we had to leave. Now it's on when we were leaving, that's when now you could see, oh my, look at the large number of people. The people, oh, the people are so many. There were so many. You couldn't believe. In fact, when the train came to pick us to go back to the Union Station, some people are standing on the train. Then for the first time, like there's this is a train that is a double decker train, because that is a double decker train, and people are even sitting on the stairways. So hey, that's that. You know, so all in all, I can say the CNE is really lovely. It's a fun time. It's a fun place to go, and that usually marks, like it's the end of summer. So now students can actually go back to school on a high. you know yes. So hey, we can only wish the students the very best as they go to the new term. Yes. So all in all, you let me know which ride do you think you would have gone too fast. Yes, put it there in the comments, and you know, remember, only do it big and Vitu Vidogo. Thank you very much.